What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Meadows and Makers podcast here on MSP Waves. I'm your host, Greg Dowd, also known as Making Stuff here in the Hive community. Welcome to my podcast where I'm all about trying to give everybody some kind of solutions to a lot of the stuff that's going on today. And I find those solutions can be in self reliance and our current technology. We have a lot of current technology that we have at our disposal that can help us produce things and to become more self-reliant and not be so dependent on the systems that we are subjected to. So that's what this show's all about. I try to bring a little bit of a white pill to the audience and see if I can share some of the things through the things that I'm doing and some of the solutions that I found from the folks in my community and from things that I'm learning and researching. So we talk a little bit about current events and maybe some solutions to help with certain things that are going on. This week I am kind of putting this together last minute. Kind of a common thing for me the past couple episodes has been just trying to come up with an outline and figure out what I'm going to talk about kind of last minute. So hope everybody can hear me out there. Hope everybody's having a good week so far and that everything's going well for you guys out there. What's up, Crimson Clad? What's up, Rondon? Good to see you guys there in the chat. I am also streaming it out there on Odyssey and YouTube as well. So I tweeted out them links as well. If you're on Twitter, you can check that out. So I have was able to get a little bit more done with aquaponics system, and it looks like our next I'll probably have everything ready and to bring up to the makerspace by our next Freedom Cell meeting, which will happen at the first of the month, the first Wednesday of the month coming up in March here. So I think I got a week on that. I also reached out in an email to both Derek Prose and Nicole Sauce to see if I could get them scheduled for an interview on the podcast. So be looking forward for that kind of for those interviews, and have some other guests in mind. Trying to try to book guests or at least get that started to where I can maybe do that on part of my Sunday is reach out to people and try to get more guests coming on the podcast. It was a pretty cool week. Was able to dive into a few things. I've been kind of on a weird a rabbit hole going into some of the some information on the Disney company. And I've been watching a lot of videos on that kind of stuff. I watched something with Jay Dyer and his wife. She has a podcast called Out of This World, and where she talks a lot about that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into that stuff tonight, but I think I've been finding it pretty interesting. Looking into some of that stuff this week. We have one of our coworkers where I work. He often goes to Disney World, and I was asking him some things about the parks now. I did work for Disney World for a little while when I was in college, and I remember some of how the park operated back then. But what he was telling me now is that they've got like RFID bracelets, and then they do thumbprint scans when you enter the parks and stuff, and I guess to try to prevent people that didn't buy a pass to come in or use other alternative identities or whatever to piggyback on families' passes or something like that. Um, but yeah, they're doing all that kind of stuff. And Jay Dyer and his wife were talking about how some of these military industrial complex companies sponsor certain rides, like the Epcot ride was sponsored by Siemens for a while, which is a military industrial complex company. And so I found all that kind of fascinating. I kind of tumbled down the rabbit hole with that a little bit, and during the week at work and everything. But the big story, I guess, I want to cover tonight is this whole issue um, with the chemical spill that train that derailed. I think I mentioned it on the last podcast and talked about some possible solutions, thinking about how to remediate water, looking into the use of biochar as a way to remediate the water. And thinking about this, it's not just going to affect those people locally there in Ohio. It's going to affect a lot of the country because a lot of the food, and that's like a huge area, a big area for like the Amish, and a lot of crops are grown in that area, and so it's not just a concern for some people in that area. I think it's going to affect more people than we realize. Um, and it might be a good idea to think about ways that you can mitigate some of that stuff, some of the poisoning from those toxins being in the environment. And so I ran across a podcast with Mike Adams that somebody shared in our Freedom Cell group chat, and I wanted to cover that tonight because he's talking about he was talking about um, how you can grow a certain plant to help out with the to be able to heal from the exposure to these dioxins. And uh, so that's the big thing that I want to share with you guys tonight. And if I have it pulled up on the appropriate tab, which I do not, but yeah, I want to comment on this video that Mike Adams put out recently and check out his solution here, something that he's looked into, and then probably get into this interview with Sek Magora. He was a friend that I brought on the podcast a while ago. We had met during the activation tour that Derek did in 2021, and so he recently got on a podcast with Ernest Hancock, Declare Your Independence. If you have listened to libertarian radio at all, Ernest Hancock has been doing a radio show for a long time, and he has a website, freedomsphoenix.com, and he's been archiving a lot of stuff on that website and using IPFS to back everything up. And Ernie's been fighting the good fight for a long time, so it was really cool to hear him on that podcast. So we might get into that for a little bit because he did share some pretty good points in that that I'd like to share with you guys. So let me change up my screen here so that we can check this out. Can you guys hear me okay? Is everything sounding good in the chat? Everything's going good? As far as my sound, I know I did have a comment on one of the videos that's they were telling me that the audio was pretty low on my mic. So just to be safe, I'm going to turn it up just a little bit so that it'll come out nice and crisp. So I'll do that right there. All right, so this is the video from Mike Adams. We're going to play this a little bit, and he's going to talk about something that would possibly help you detox from this chemical exposure here. So let's check it out.
Drinking warm water before bed fixes tooth and gum problems overnight. People are healing decay.
There we go.
Okay, I have some unbelievably important and amazing positive news, but we're going to start out with some very scary information about dioxins. But I have really positive news for you here in this podcast. I've got to make this short because I'm jumping into a meeting with my lab tech about this, actually, my chief lab analyst. And I've got some major announcements to make and some things that you could do right now to protect yourself. So why dioxins? Well, of course, the Ohio train wreck resulted in this massive spill of something like 1 million gallons of vinyl chloride. And then they set it on fire. Now, it's not yet clear to me exactly who set it on fire. I don't know if it's the EPA official or the train company official or some local government official. It's still not clear, but somebody gave the order to ignite this cloud, which is insane. And when they ignited it, when they burn, chlorinated compounds, you create dioxins. Now, dioxins refers to a class of something like 73 chemical compounds, which are crazy toxic. They're the most toxic synthetic chemicals that have ever been created in the history of human civilization. They're so toxic that I'm talking about femtograms of exposure. And a femtogram is 1/millionth of a billionth of a gram, right? Because it goes gram, milligram, microgram, nanogram, picogram, femtogram. And I think femto is 10 to the minus 15th. Anyway, at concentrations of femtograms, not to mention picograms or nanograms, this can have toxic effects. And at even higher concentrations, it can be fatal, but it causes cancer. It interferes with normal cellular functions. And it is so toxic that something like 1/32 thousandth of a grain of salt of a dioxin chemical is your maximum lifetime exposure. Like not even a drop. Okay, we're talking like thousandths of a fraction of a drop. That's your maximum lifetime exposure, according to the EPA. All right, and this stuff was just unleashed into the air. They set this on fire. They set the vinyl chloride on fire, which created dioxins during the combustion, and then the wind just blew it all to the northeast. So we're talking Pennsylvania, we're talking Ohio, we're talking even parts of Canada are going to get this, by the way, and other states. We're talking a massive food production region that has effectively been chemically bombed with dioxins. Now, here's the other horrifying thing about this. But stay tuned, because I have good news for you, how you can block this, or at least block some of it. But this stuff persists in the soil with a half-life of 50 to 100 years. Now, it is widely known that you need about 10 half-lives to consider something to be gone. So we're talking 500 years before this will be gone from the soils where it has fallen, or 1,000 years, like somewhere between 500 and 1,000 years. So we're talking 5 centuries before this will be gone from the soils, or other features of the surrounding area. And it has contaminated the rivers, the streams, the tree leaves, the homes. Animals are dying inside homes. Wildlife are dying. Backyard chickens are dying, and people are going to start dying from accelerated cancers, those who were exposed to this while the EPA told them, oh, go back home.
That's what I was suggesting and what I'm thinking as well. I'm wondering if actually producing something like biochar may be helpful at soaking up some of these toxins and like pulling them out of the environment more rapidly. But I don't know enough to, make that claim really. So Need to do some more research in that, but looking at some of the stuff on biochar, it seems like it could be a helpful thing. So, all right. Hopefully the mic is adjusted well in balance with the video. So, all right, let's continue on here.
But safe. Are you kidding me? This is a crime. This is a crime of the century against the American people. This is like the Bhopal disaster in India, except chemical, of course. But the scale of this is just off the charts. Now, of course, since I own a food science lab, I immediately began thinking on this. Well, wait, let me back up. I've invited experts in dioxin toxicity for interviews. And we're going to be talking to authors and experts, and we're probably even going to put together a special docuseries on this that'll be free for you to watch via Brighteon.com or Brighteon.tv. So we're going to stream it for free. We're in the process right now of just contacting everybody, putting that together. I'll conduct the interviews, and we'll just do this. Somebody needs to do this. The freaking EPA is not going to do it. The criminal CDC is not going to do it. The government's not going to do it. I mean, they want you to die. So we're doing this. And we also own a food science laboratory that is ISO 17025 accredited. And we have 6 mass spec instruments. We have 2 ICP instruments. We have 1 triple quad or a MS, and then we have 3 LCMS machines, single quad mass specs. And we use these instruments every day. Like, we run them hard because we're testing our own food products, our own supplements, our own personal care products that we manufacture and sell. HealthRangerStore.com, by the way, if you want to see that. We test them for heavy metals, and we test them for glyphosate, and we test them for microbiology. We also have a system of computer-controlled incubation instruments. We test E. coli, salmonella, yeast and mold, total plate count. And we also test on a different instrument for aflatoxins, which are liver toxic chemicals that they're the result of fungi and mold in grains. And they often show up in chicken feed or sometimes oats or corn or wheat or what have you. So we test for that as well. Oh, nuts. The aflatoxins are very common in cashews, for example. So we test for those things in all the nuts and seeds. And I don't know, we do some other tests as well, and we're working on organophosphate testing. But when I heard about the dioxin fallout in Ohio, I knew the food supply was going to be inundated with this for years to come. Why? Because dioxins are fat soluble. They bioaccumulate in lipids, lipids being the fats that are in the animals. So we're talking not just animal flesh, your hamburgers and whatever, but milk, eggs, cheese, anything that comes from animals, or anything grown on the farms in the area might be suspect as well. You need to test it. Is dioxin fallout, is it on the veggies? Is it on the lettuce, the celery, whatever you're growing? Is it on the apples or the orchards, what have you? So I was thinking at first, gosh, I wish we had a way to test this. And in a podcast I did on this, I admitted we don't have a method for this in our lab. This is not something that we routinely do. It's just not something that's been in our scope. It's not in our ISO accreditation scope, for example, and it's not something that we have ever done before. But we've done a lot of interesting stuff. We've done method development on glyphosate using a triple quad mass spec without post-column derivatization, by the way. We've developed method. I'm a published scientist on the LCMS method for the quantitation of cannabinoids in hemp extracts, for example. And I've got more science papers, in the works, obviously. But I talked to my top analyst, and I said, look, I want you to find a way that we can test for dioxins. And I don't care what it costs. I don't care if it's $500,000, $1 million. I mean, just find something that works, that's EPA approved, and where we can test for this. And so she started doing some digging, and we found out that there is, in fact, an interface that we can add to our existing triple quad mass spec. So we already own the main instrument that's required for this, which itself is like $400,000 to $500,000 in this triple quad mass spec. And we already know that software. We already know that system, how to run the calibration standards, how to maintain columns and how to handle, injection volumes and all kinds of things. We know that system, the reporting system, how to, how to smooth curves on it, how to, calculate coefficients of curve fit, all these kinds of things.
So that stuff's really important when you're talking about some of this equipment. I did work in a kind of a material science lab when I was working at the university for a while. And we did have some of the types of equipment that he is talking about. And typically, when you have that, when you have equipment like that, and it's collecting data, and the machine is collecting data, you want to give it some known sample, some sample that has some known qualities, and you use that to help calibrate the equipment to know if the data that you're looking at is even, if it even makes sense. Because a lot of times, if you start one of these machines up and it's not properly calibrated, it'll give you data, but it's like gonna be like way off the mark. It's gonna be like, that doesn't make any sense. It could be off by like multiple factors if it's not properly calibrated. So it's like super important to go through all these calibration processes with especially these material analysis equipment type stuff. But it can be quite involved, especially when you're talking about like breaking down molecular compounds and things like that. There was a machine that I remember that we didn't have access to. It's an incredibly expensive machine, but it can actually like analyze like individual molecules. I think it was called an NMR machine, and I can't remember exactly what that stands for, but that's the power of the internet. NMR analysis. No. It's like I can't even spell anymore. It's called nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. So I think so. What this does is a spectroscope technique to observe local magnetic fields around atomic nuclei. The sample is placed in a magnetic field, and the NMR signal is produced by excitation of nuclei sample with radio waves into nuclear magnetic resonance, which is detected with sensitive radio receivers. The intramolecular magnetic field around an atom in a molecule changes the resonance frequency, thus giving access to details of the electronic structure of a molecule and its individual functional groups. So this is a very very expensive machine, and probably only contained at certain universities and stuff, because it's just so specific and so niche. But let's see. In modern organic chemistry practice, NMR spectroscopy is the definitive method to identify monomolecular organic compounds. So I believe if you were to put in a specific compound, like that you were maybe unaware of, that could give you some idea of the different compounds. Like if you gave it some kind of organic matter, and then you might be able to break down certain compounds in it. So it was in the chemistry department, and I think we asked to use it like one time or something like that. Because we were trying to analyze some of these. The interaction of like the cellulose with these ionic liquids, and see what the chemical makeup was after the interaction took place. So that is like super high end machinery, but there's like also like mass spectroscopy, and we had one machine. It was called a TGA machine. It's called thermogravimetric analysis, and you can put a sample in there and you can burn it off, and then if you attach that to, I think there was like a gas mass spectrometer system that you could attach to that, and so it could like sniff some of the gases coming off as you burned up your sample, and you could tell some stuff about the item that you put in the TGA machine from that. Um, those are a couple of things that I am personally aware of from working in that lab for a little while.
And found out, so this interface is called the APGC, which means atmospheric pressure gas chromatography. So generally speaking, GC, known as gas chromatography, is different from LC, which is liquid chromatography. So GCMS is a gas, not grass, but gas chromatography mass spec instrument. But when you do it under atmospheric pressure, APGC combined with a triple quad, which is a tandem MS-MS instrument, you get insane levels of sensitivity, which is exactly what we will be able to put together. I don't know how long it's going to take to get this. I don't know what the training time is on this, but since we already know the software, we already know the system, we already know we do this every day with glyphosate, by the way, on this instrument in a liquid format. We are so far ahead of the curve on this that it's not going to take us long to put this new APGC interface in place and start running this. And so this will enable us, of course, to start testing not just environmental samples, like, oh, take a look at this water, take a look at this soil. How about these veggies? How about these grocery store samples or this fast food sample? But also, of course, to test our own products. So I'm going to, although this might be a little preliminary, I'm just going to go ahead and announce it here. My intention, and I'm not saying there won't be, setbacks or difficulties or challenges, because this is not easy stuff to do and it's very, very expensive. But my intention, I commit to you, my intention is that we will apply this technology to the products that we sell at healthrangerstore.com. All the foods, the certified organic storable foods, the superfoods, the supplements, the personal care products. We will conduct dioxin testing on our entire product line. I mean, everything that's consumable, not like clothing or survival knives or whatever, but you know what I mean? Stuff that comes into contact with your skin or that you ingest, we will test it. And I will keep you posted about those announcements. So that's coming up. And that is, to me, that's very, very exciting, because it enables us to have yet another layer of protection to assure our customers that what we have is the cleanest of the clean on the planet in terms of heavy metals, glyphosate, pesticides, herbicides, bacteria, and coming up, dioxins. Okay.
So let's get into what this actually is doing when you do a test in this GC mass spec machine. So is a analytical method that combines the features of gas chromatography and mass spectrometry to identify different substances within a test sample. Applications of the GCMS include drug detection, fire investigation, environmental analysis, explosives investigation, and identification of unknown samples, including that of material samples from the planet Mars during probe missions as early as the 1970s. GC mass spectrometry can also be used in airport security to detect substances in luggage or on human beings. That's probably what they put my peanut butter in when I got stopped by the TSA that one time for a jar of peanut butter. And while I was bringing a jar of peanut butter on an airplane, I think it was like in there from having a snack for a hike or something. but anyway, let me see if we can dive into, let's see. GCMS has been regarded as a gold standard for forensic substance identification because it is used to perform a 100% specific test which positively identifies the presence of a particular substance. A non-specific test merely indicates that any of several in a category of substances is present, although a non-specific test could statistically suggest the identity of the substance. This could lead to a false positive identification. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Is like you use some known samples, like a pure element of some kind, and then you read that, and then the data from that you're plugging into like a little database, and then you keep you take samples of different things, and then like if you have something that's like a mix of a bunch of different elements, um, when you're reading that data, it's like, well, it's looking kind of like it could be like parts of this element and this element and this element. So, so what it's saying, however, the high temperature is 300 degrees Celsius used in the GC mass spec injection port and oven can result in thermal degradation of injected molecules, thus resulting in the measurement of degradation products instead of the actual molecule of interest. So I think that's where the NMR machine comes into play. Is like, so you have to kind of like burn the sample to be able to read the gases coming off of it. Um, It is composed of two major building blocks, the gas chromatograph and the mass spectrometer. The gas chromatograph utilizes a capillary column whose properties regarding molecule separation depend on the column's dimensions, length, diameter, film thickness, as well as the phase properties. The difference in the chemical properties between different molecules in a mixture and their relative affinity for the stationary phase of the column will promote separation of the molecules as the sample travels the length of the column. The molecules are retained by the column and then elute or come off from the column at different times, called the retention time. And this allows the mass spectrometer downstream to capture, ionize, accelerate, deflect, and detect the ionized molecules separately. The mass spectrometer does this by breaking each molecule into ionized fragments and detecting these fragments using their mass to charge ratio. Um, so it's pretty fancy machine, and you kind of think about the guys that came up with this stuff, and it's like it kind of blows your mind on how people started to figure this stuff out. Lipo 1706, hello, good to see you. Uncle Bonehead, good to see you. How are you guys doing? We're talking about how a possible way to help prevent the exposure to these chemicals that were released in that Ohio chemical spill. And Mike Adams has a whole material science lab, and is talking about testing samples and getting a new piece of equipment to be able to test for these chemical compounds, and if they may be present in certain foods and the water supply and different things. So Mike Adams is the man. He really is. Like, been following him for a long time. I don't agree with everything he talks about, and I don't think he should with anybody really. I think it's good to listen to people and hear what they got to say, and think for yourself. So, um, so, but he has really been doing some great stuff in the realm of taking your health into your own hands and writing a lot of articles about how you can do that, and verifying for himself by building a lab and testing different foods and things like that in his lab, and especially the issue with glyphosate on a lot of things, um, the Roundup chemical, and so that's kind. I believe that's kind of how he got started. So, hell yeah, that sounds gooder than hell, there, Uncle Bonehead. uh, Hang out and harass me. That sounds good. It's like constructive criticism, man. No, I hope you've been having a good week. But yeah, this is one of the solutions that I wanted to talk about tonight. Is there's got to be multiple solutions to this chemical issue, but we're gonna definitely have a hard time with it, because that's a big area where a lot of food is grown in that Ohio, Pennsylvania area and the Northeast up there. So, and it's going to affect a ton of stuff. So, if we can mitigate it, whatsoever, I want to try to share some of that information.
So that's number one. Now let's get to some practical things that you can do right now, because I'm interviewing guests coming up. Some are experts in using nutrition to block dioxin absorption in your body's cells. And I have a team conducting research on this as well. That's a totally separate editorial research team. And they're researching what are all the foods and nutrients that block dioxins and what can detox dioxins if you already have been exposed. My initial thought was very pessimistic on this. I thought, man, these are going to be very difficult to get out of your body because they're soluble with lipids. Something goes into your cell membranes and binds with the fatty acids, the lipids. It takes a long time to get that out of your body. So I wasn't very optimistic, but since then I have done just a little bit of research that gives me a lot of optimism in this space. And one of the most exciting things I've come across, although there are more coming, we're going to publish a full list for you on naturalnews.com. Okay. So check naturalnews.com in the weeks ahead for a lot of how-to information on this, very practical information, stuff the EPA won't tell you, the FDA won't tell you, the CDC won't tell you. We will tell you. Naturalnews.com. The number one thing that we're finding so far is a phytochemical that is found in cruciferous vegetables and is known as I3C, or indole 3-carbinol, which describes its molecular orientation and format, by the way. That's where I3C comes from. I3C is a molecule that has anti-cancer effects, by the way, and other amazing effects in the body. It is basically a powerful medicinal nutrient. And here's the beauty of it, folks. You can grow it yourself almost for free. And I'm going to tell you how right now. So here's all you got to do. I've got a video that shows you how to do this. If you go to my channel on Brighteon.com, or just go to Brighteon.com and search for, let's see, sprouting or sprouts, or go to my channel, HR Report, and search for, oh yeah, here's what you search for. Prep with Mike, all one word, P-R-E-P, Prep with Mike, and then sprouts. Like, do those two phrases together. I think you'll bring up this video on Brighteon.com. I'm pretty sure you will. Watch that video because it shows you how to use mason jars with a simple sprouting lid. And these lids, which you turn the jars upside down and the lids drain out the sprout stuff and you just rinse them a couple times a day. It's so simple. These lids you can buy like on Amazon. I mean, they're dirt cheap. Or you don't even have to use these lids. You can use other things. But anyway, watch the video. And then go out and buy broccoli sprouting seeds or other cruciferous vegetable sprouting seeds. Okay? Get those from anywhere you want. Just get sprouting seeds. Start sprouting broccoli sprouts. What happens is then and you don't need dirt, obviously. You don't need soil. You don't even need sunlight for this. You can do this indoors. You can do this in a freaking closet if you want. You sprout broccoli seeds, and what it creates is indole carbonol. Plus, by the way, some other molecules such as sulforaphane. And sulforaphane by itself is...
All right, guys. So grab yourself some broccoli seeds and do some sprouts. So we're listening to Mike Adams, and he is the health ranger, runs Natural News. I think he's the creator of Brighteon.com, actually. We'll see, Uncle Bonehead. You had some good comments in there. It was nice to see the transportation secretary finally show up in Ohio, I guess. He had to take time out from his second maternity leave to do it. Pete Booty jiggled his way over his head like the rest of the administration. Yeah, I mean, I don't even listen to those clowns anymore. I mean, I hear the news through, like, guys like Richard Grove, and Status gonna keep stating on and messing things up. The thing I did hear, I think Biden, didn't he go? I don't know. He went everywhere, but the Ohio thing. Didn't he go to Ukraine or something? Maybe. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even keep up with those guys. Because we got to solve these problems on our own. We got to figure out how to solve these problems ourselves and stop looking for leaders, I think. We got to be the leaders. We got to be the people to solve these issues, because none of those guys are going to do it for us. Yeah, he is. Okay. So, what's the dude's name? Mike Adams. Mason jars are only to be used with jelly jams and moonshine. Yeah, I mean, there's so many great uses for mason jars, man. Do lots of cool stuff. But Uncle Bonehead verified that the dementia in chief is overseas. So, right, yeah. PolitiFact, Truthometer with Mike Adams. Yeah, like I said, I don't agree with everything Mike Adams has to say, but I do like a lot of his stuff on health, and I like a lot of his. I like that he's got his own science lab where he can analyze a lot of stuff. So yeah, let's continue on. Let's see if my old buddy at Agorist Acres has some good. I don't think he'd sell enough to do broccoli sprouts, but you could probably order several packs of broccoli from him, and sprout them. But yeah, he's got a few choices here on different broccolis. So he is a buddy of mine that I brought on to the podcast. So if you do want to go support somebody like-minded, if you want to buy some seeds from him, you can go there. But other places, I think there's a True Leaf market that they sell a lot of the non-GMO seeds. And they do sell a lot of stuff for sprouts. And look at this. They got broccoli sprouting kits right here. So it just looks like a mason jar. And what do they got in here? Uh, yeah, you just it looks like you can throw them in, just throw them in a mason jar and add some water, and you get a bunch of seeds for sprouting. But there you go. There's a whole kit for that at trueleafmarket.com here, and that could be a way to help protect yourself from this chemical release. Is a possibility here. So let's look into what he's talking about, this I3C, um, and Nutridyne IC3 plus. Let me see if I can find something. I3C compounds. Or let's just search I3C. Let's see. Compound. Inidol 3 carbinol. Let's look at this. So it looks like somebody could break it down into little capsules. I3C 200 delivers a therapeutic 200 milligram dose of pure Inidol 3 carbinol in every capsule. Commonly known as I3C, is a compound found in cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli, kale, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts with a potent antioxidant activity. As an antioxidant, it stimulates the production of enzymes that detoxifies toxins and protects cells from oxidative damage. Saying it's a way of getting optimal levels of the nutrient and take a supplement. But sprouted seeds sounds like a good way to go as well. Yep. Broccoli is the veggie with an afro. I like that. All right, let's continue with his video here.
Is anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory to the cardiovascular system. And it's one reason why in my daily smoothies, by the way, I'm putting in either fresh raw cruciferous vegetables that I grow using my hydroponic system that I've spoken about, or I will do like a dried, freeze-dried broccoli sprouts powder, and I put that into my smoothie. And so I'm getting sulforaphane and I'm getting indole 3 carbinol every day. And I've been doing that for years. And if you haven't been doing this, you can do it for pennies. This is what gets me super excited. And I know I geek out on this stuff. I make no apologies for being a total nutrition geek or a food science geek. I don't apologize for that. Or the fact that I'm relearning all the Rubik's Cubes algorithms again just because I'm bored and I want to solve problems. No, seriously, I'm a total geek. I get it. But I get excited about this stuff because this is such a great gift to share with people, to say, you can block dioxins for pennies a day just by sprouting. And by the way, in sprouting, you're also going to learn how to be more resilient against, a food supply crisis or famine and starvation. Because if you're dying, you just sprout some, alfalfa seeds. You can sprout a variety of things. You can do teff sprouts, TEFF. Makes like a little green carpet that's edible. It's pretty.
Let's look that up. That is one thing I really haven't tried myself was, just sprouting seeds without soil, just using some water and like throwing it on a plate or whatever and letting it sprout. But it's really that simple. I mean, you just got to throw a bunch of seeds in a tray or a plate or a jar or whatever, and just put some water in there and just set it by some sun and just let them sprout. Um, so so simple, anyone can do it. Ah. What's with this veggie talk? You trying to get me on the Mackenzie Gary corner? Yeah, man. Exactly. On broccoli command. Heck yeah. What's up, Gabriel? We're talking about sprouting broccoli as a way to block um, these chemicals, especially the chemicals from the latest train accident that released a ton of chemicals into the environment. Um, so we're talking about that and looking at something called teff seeds. I haven't heard of this before, but let's check this out. Teff benefits foodforlife.com. Largely grown in Ethiopia, India, and Australia, teff is used similarly in cooking to millet and quinoa. Because the seed is small, teff cooks much faster than other grains, can be used to make a porridge and alcoholic beverages. Another good use for teff is gluten-free baked goods such as bread, pie crust, and cookies. It can also be eaten whole, boiled, or steamed. And it sounds like it's good. It's a good thing to sprout. So, yeah, you can get a lot of good stuff with that. I'd never heard of teff before. I wonder if they have that here. CTEFF. What do they got? What do they got with that? Nothing with that. But let's get back to that video. Let's check that out. What happened with the train in Arizona? Haven't heard much about it lately. Yeah, I had heard something about that, and then something came across my Twitter feed on somebody talking about a ton of these tanker trains being lined up in one of the food areas in California, and that's gonna be a big topic. I think is there seems to be kind of an all-out attack on the food in our food system, and you know, so try to take care of that situation by doing the best you can. Right now is a really good time to get some seeds started and start where you can. I'm behind on starting seeds. I think this weekend gonna dedicate to getting stuff started. And I talked about a little while ago about designing a little way to make squares for my seed starting trays. I've got a bunch of these seed starting trays, but they're all for microgreens. And I want to create some dividers for it so I can put in the potting soil. And then when I lift it out, then I'll have all the little individual little seed starts in their own little squares so that they're easier to plant. So I've still got to do that, but I want to dedicate this weekend to getting some seeds started. So and I'll try the doing some sprouts too, because I do have some seeds, like several seeds that I can get out and try to sprout and attempt to do that. Oh, sorry about that. Had to pop my back. But let's continue with listening to this episode here.
Pretty fun. But the thing is, also, you don't need some big, elaborate electronic, sprouting machine. Those are out there, and they're great. And I've used them before. They're perfectly fine. You put them on a timer, you load the water and it rinses them, and it drains into it's an automated sprouting system, multiple trays, multiple levels. Okay, awesome. But you don't need that to just start sprouting broccoli seeds in a freaking mason jar and to give yourself a daily dose of indole 3-carbinol, which will block dioxins. Now, what percentage will it block? Hey, it depends on how much you eat. It depends on the timing of your exposure, how much you were exposed to, routes of exposure, inhalation versus skin contacts, all kinds of things. I can't give you one simple answer, but the more broccoli sprouts you eat, the better you will be able to defend yourself against dioxins. Okay, that's a blanket statement that is true. And there are other foods and superfoods, by the way, that will block dioxins. And we're going to get you that full list. We're going to publish that for you on naturalnews.com. And I'll do videos about this and so on. And we're going to get experts on to talk about this. We are going to really hit this issue hard for probably years to come, because these dioxins are all around us in the environment. Did you know that these are what caused the whole toxic shock syndrome in the tampons back in the 1980s, when women were suffering toxic neurological shock? And it turned out to be from the bleached paper that was part of the tampon composition, that when they inserted this, there were dioxins in the bleached paper, and the dioxins were absorbed through their through their body.
Damn. That sucks ass. Damn, that would suck hard, man.
Because it goes right into the bloodstream from there, and they were suffering toxic shock. That was dioxin exposure, folks. That's how dangerous this stuff is. And it is found in bleached paper. And by the way, if there's a fire, if a house catches on fire in your neighborhood, that house is producing a massive plume of toxic dioxins. Why? Because PVC is being burned. The PVC is melting and catching on fire.
Cheers to Uncle Bonehead.
And turning into...
Here, I have a sparkling water that I'll cheers you. Leveled up in the chat. Cheers, good sir.
To dioxin smoke. And all chlorinated compounds, well, or nearly all, when they're burned, they produce dioxins. So you're getting dioxin exposure. And it's toxic at parts per trillion or less in terms of exposure, which is insane. Oh, and by the way, this interface I'm talking about, this APGC, atmospheric pressure gas chromatography interface for the tandem mass spec instrument, this can detect 2 femtograms. That's called load on column, in a 1 microgram injection onto the chromatography column. 2 femtograms, folks. Again, a femtogram is 1/millionth of a billionth of a gram. That's how sensitive this instrument is. That's why it has all these vacuum turbines, and that's why it uses so much energy to run this instrument. It costs a fortune because it has to pull this crazy vacuum so you have signal to noise ratio. And even at 2 femtograms, you get 10-to-1 signal to noise. It's crazy. I mean, the sensitivity is just unreal. It's almost like alien tech or something. But we have this. It's sitting in our lab right now. I mean, not the interface, but the triple quad mass spec. Anyway, we're going to bring you more information on this. In the meantime, folks, start sprouting broccoli sprouts. Do it now. Do it. Do it. Do it. Just get out there, start sprouting broccoli, okay? And
do it now. I need one of those stream decks so I can play like sounds. That would be awesome. So Leo DeCap there, doing the cheers. I was listening to some podcasters talking about how Leonardo only dates like girls that are like 20, like early 20s, and then like at a certain age he dumps them and he goes and finds another girl in their 20s to date. I recently watched that movie. I don't know if you guys. It was a recommendation from the. It's off topic. I know it's a hard segue here, but the Leo DiCap gif got me. Uh, the movie Babylon that came out. I guess it came out in 2022. Was when it was released. It kind of shows you like the early Hollywood and how crazy it was. Like Wild West Hollywood, like where they're just like making silent films and stuff. Early on, they had like in the movie they had like they were just outside. They were using all the natural sunlight. This was before they had the studios and the picking up the sound in the studios and all that kind of stuff. So like they were having to use like showing like having to use like natural sunlight and stuff and how just like crazy it was. Just like they were just showing it would, the whole thing was like a chaotic like madhouse of all these like sets that were just put up everywhere, impromptu and just filming different things on the fly, trying to get the footage they needed to just churn out these different little silent films. You just trade them two 20-year-olds for a 140-year-old. Oh man. Um, yeah, let's continue on here. Let's see. Am I in the right tab? Yep.
Just eat like a, I don't know, big handful every day, or throw it in a smoothie. It's got a taste to it. Yeah, it does. It's cruciferous. It's going to taste like cruciferous. You're going to notice it. It's sharp. It's tangy, but it's going to protect you from dioxins. So get this done. Get working on it, and then we'll bring you more information. And we're going to start testing all our products. Okay, now I don't know. It might take us 90 days to get that actually going. I don't know, but I'll tell you what we're working on and what's our progress and so on. We're going to get this done, and we're going to test environmental samples too. And then when that day comes, those of you who live in, Pennsylvania or wherever, we may be able to collaborate with you to do things like, hey, can you test, the soil from our farm? Like, we want to help the Amish people especially. So if any of you listening, if you know the Amish farms in Pennsylvania who have been really hurt by this, feel free to let them know or give them the link to this. Let them listen to this. And you can share this on Twitter, by the way, if you change Brighteon.com.
Well, Mike, I gotta call you out on that one, man. Like, how are the Amish gonna listen to an internet video? Like, do the Amish have the internet? Is there like a is there like a an Amish computer room? Like somebody's got set up in Amish internet space? I don't know. I remember there was a TLC, maybe it was like a TLC show or something at one point in time where it was like the Amish Mafia. Yeah, Uncle Bonehead. It's like totally like that. Ohio, Pennsylvania area. There's like a ton of Amish people over there. But I guess you could send him the translated text from the video on a carrier pigeon, or just write them a letter. That'd probably be best. All right, write them a letter. Or talk to him. Oh man. I didn't. Well, dude, I didn't know that either. Right when this happened, I was like, I was looking at the area of Ohio. It was just this little subdivision, or like it's a small town there in that Palestine. I think it was East Palestine, and didn't even think about it in the beginning. But I think probably Gabriel brought it up. While I was doing the podcast. And so, shout out to Gabriel. he's on it, man. So, yeah, he alerted me of that fact that that's like big time Amish country. And we talked about the case with Amos Miller a while back, and how he's doing a crowdfund because they came after him for having a private membership association and selling his food off the farm so that he doesn't have to go through all these FDA processes and food inspection processes, and having, you know, all this equipment and stuff that basically makes it impossible for, you know, a family farmer to be able to have the capital to comply with all these different regulations. So a way to get around that is to form a private membership association. I've talked about this a few times. And he had one of those set up, and he would not sell to the public. He only sold to people that were his members. And they came after him and told him that they don't like him doing that anymore. And he's in a legal battle there right now with all that stuff. Let's see, I used to deliver from Uncle Bonehead to a customer southeast of Pittsburgh, and the road was so skinny for a big truck, popping it over a hill and being scared of the nose coming down on a horse and buggy. Yeah. That would be a little scary. Yeah, and all those roads, I can attest to that. I took I went up to Philadelphia in I think it was 2019. First time I had been that far up in the Northeast, and I drove my Ford F-250 up there. And that was a big mistake because it was really hard to find parking in Philly, especially with a big old truck, because all those roads are like really narrow. So I guess that's a lot of cities, except for St. Louis. I think St. Louis, when you go out west, and St. Louis especially, like everything's super square, like laid out in a big grid, and the roads are really wide in St. Louis, from what I remember, and a little easier to navigate. But like I'm thinking like Louisville, and then like going up into Philadelphia, and some of those places up more in the Northeast there. They all got skinnier roads because it was all horse and buggy out there for a long time. Saying Uncle Bonehead is saying everything out east is built for itty bitty box trucks, nothing made for a tractor trailer. Yep. And that's what I was noticing too. I done notice that too.
Take the full URL of this podcast, change brighteon.com to freespeechvideos.com, with the rest of the URL being all the same. And then you can share it on Twitter, and you can share it on Facebook, and they're not blocking us. They block Brighteon, because the lunatics at big tech, they want you to die. So of course they block us. We're trying to save lives here. Of course they want you to die. Of course they block it. But anyway, change it to freespeechvideos.com, and then you can actually get that video to go through, and it won't be censored, okay? So share it with everybody you know. If you know Amish farmers in Pennsylvania or that area, feel free to give them this video. I don't know if they're even using the internet these days. Maybe somebody is. But tell them we would be happy to test some farm samples for them at no cost, because they've been royally screwed in this whole thing. In the meantime, folks, get prepared. Yeah, stay away from the toxins. Thank you for listening. God bless you all. Take care. A global reset is coming, and that's why I've recorded a new 9-hour audiobook. It's called The Global Reset Survival Guide.
All right, well, so yeah, Mike, giving you a solution there. That's what I like. Are people that try to give you solutions instead of talking about just the problems all the time. And that's what I'm trying to do here on this podcast as well. Is to give you a little bit of a white pill in a world that can seem pretty dark at times, and to always be looking for solutions yourself. All right, man. Let's see. Podcasts for the Amish. They need some podcasts. All right, sweet man. Thank you for hanging around on the phone. What's up to Maine there in the chat on Discord? Good to see you. Have not seen you around before. So hello, I am Greg, and this is the Meadows and Makers podcast. Welcome. And today we are talking about some solutions on what you can do to prevent yourself from getting damaged by this latest disaster that happened in East Palestine with the train that they burned that contained all those nasty vinyl chloride and turned into some nasty chemicals. And at the beginning of the program, I talked a little bit about going down the rabbit hole with the Walt Disney and all that kind of stuff, and Hollywood and all of those things. And I guess I can tie it back in here with this whole event happening. And them making that movie about it, that White Noise movie. And that is part of what is known as like predictive programming or revelation of the method. And I found a book that was referenced in there by Jay Dyer and his wife, talking about some of this stuff. And I thought I had tagged it, or I had opened up a tab about it so that I could share it. But I am lacking to see it, but I do have one of the books, and this might be the book that they talked about it. It's called Secret Societies in Psychological Warfare by Michael A. Hoffman. And basically what that stuff is all about is like, they have to show you what they're going to do. And your silence is basically a tacit agreement, or, you're agreeing to let it happen. Even though you may not necessarily know about it, but they're like, hey, look, we showed you in this movie. But let me see if we can pull that up on LibGen and see if I can find you a free copy of that book. Let's see. Secret Societies and Psycho Warfare. So, kind of find myself when I type, it's like I'm so used to like getting auto corrected and stuff like that. that when you type, it's like I have no uh of like losing the ability to spell a lot of words, like even words that I would commonly know to spell. But but anyway, here is a link to download that book. So by Michael Hoffman here. So you can find that one on LibGen. Sip, sippity sip. I don't know if that was specifically the one you were talking about. I thought it might have had a different title. But I'll have to go back through that episode and read through that again. Yeah, I try to when I'm watching these things, I'm like trying to, type out all these links and everything, and try to go look up some of the books and see if I can find those things. And dang it, that sucks. I don't want to have that left on that page. So let me change my scene real quick here, so that we're doing only the camera while I'm looking other stuff up. But I also watched that Schitt's Creek show that Crimson Cloud was talking about on that one Saturday, and it is pretty funny. It's like the lady that played Kevin's mom and what was her name? Catherine O'Hara, I think, and Eugene Levy. Then they have like two adult children that are with them. They get kicked out of a mansion, but they bought a town and they live out of this hotel, or actually it's a motel in the town. And I gotta say, this is a decent comedy. I enjoyed it. Um, so I think I watched the first season of that, and I got some laughs. So good suggestion there, Crimson Cloud. Um, but let's move on. Let's move on. So I wanted to share with you guys a little bit with this interview on Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock. And my buddy Sek Magora on that podcast, and they got into some good conversations there. And I want to bring you toward the end of the podcast with them a little bit. I am contributing to a book that Sek is putting together. Sek Magora, he is putting together, and I basically just wrote out, some of the stuff that I've been doing and some of the technologies that I found and I've been playing around with, like my solar stuff with the lithium iron phosphate batteries. I just bought some of those lithium iron phosphate batteries to go throw in my solar trailer. And the aquaponics stuff, I shared those plans that Robbie had come up with, and the water filtration stuff, the information about the plastics diesel machine, which I still need to get up and running. But in 3D printing, easy resources for 3D printing. And I just kind of, it's going to be like a short contribution in there, but it sounds like Sec has got several people together that have, their different experiences in, trying to go after their different ways of going after self-reliance, and some of their different experience and stuff like that, and getting them to write sections, and it's going to get compiled into it's probably going to be like, I don't know how long the book's going to be, but like I just had time to write, you know, kind of an out, almost in like an outline and some paragraphs, basically based on what I've found helpful and some resources about that. So, uh, look out for that. It's coming in the future. But I submitted some words so that he can put together that book. So it's gonna be, kind of around the I ideas of Carl Hess wrote a book called Community Technology, and Carl Hess was one of these guys that he I guess at one point in time was reading through about the income tax, and there was wanting to get around like income taxes and stuff like that. And so he like taught himself how to weld. He was like a political guy there for a while, and I can't remember which administration it was for, but he was big into politics there for a little while. But let's see. American speechwriter and author. He was also a political philosopher, editor, welder, motorcycle racer, tax resistor, and libertarian activist. So he's kind of one of these guys that you can kind of maybe throw in his book, Community Technology. Um, he was laying out a lot of the ideas that Samuel Edward Konkin III was writing about with agorism and counter economics. And so, I think they really got into him with him on the tax issue, and he was not too happy about that whole issue, and decided he was going to do something about it, and then kind of went off and went and was doing his own thing. Barry Goldwater was the campaign that I believe that he was working with, and he was on the right and working with like the Goldwater campaign. And then I kind of went down his own path there, and wrote this book, Community Technology, about some of the stuff that he was doing, and he was talking about, we have to be like self-reliant people. I still have not read the book myself. I need to get into the book, but in this episode, Seth kind of lays it out a little bit better, and I think I have the book coming right now, but he's definitely one of those guys that has laid out a lot of the kind of the thought on how we can build a more voluntary future. And so while I am pulling up the podcast here, it looks like it's having some issues pulling up the podcast from the website, and I know that there are. I'll probably have to do it through a different interface. Maybe not. Let's see here. It's pulling up, but it's kind of having a hard time. So let's pull it up from here. Okay. Let's do that. Let's see the replays. And I don't like how this is laid out.
It's time for Ernest.
And turn that up. Okay.
Okay, that's not the one I want. Let's see if I can find the right one.
With Ernest Hancock.
That is also not the right one.
April 2021.
No. All right. That's aggravating. Still looking for this thing. Bear with me. Bear with me. But yeah, they got into a good conversation about Carl Hess and kind of talking about Seth's sex story a little bit there, and some solutions that you can do in your local area, some things that Ernie's talking about. And one of the big issues that he kept bringing up was that a lot of this comes to energy and your ability to produce energy, which I think it is a huge deal as well. Is like, a lot of people will tell you that your ROI on something like solar power is not so great because energy is decently priced or whatever, but it's the ability to produce your own energy which allows you to like be pretty disconnected from the system. And not to say that go ahead and just disconnect yourself from the grid. I mean, but start thinking about how you can set up your own power systems. And even if you want to automate some stuff, that was something that they were talking about, was like, you got your little chicken house or whatever, and you want to start to automate it. Well, you could have your solar panels out there, or like 100-watt solar panel that opens the gate for your chickens every morning, to let them out in free range. So, there's some ideas with that. And that was another thing that was way back that I saw at the Rogue Food Conference. I think that was in 2021 or maybe in 2020, like right after the lockdowns and stuff had subsided a little bit. But it was like out in the country, and Thomas Massey made a presentation about an invention he made called the Klux capacitor. And basically what it would be a solar panel and some capacitors, and it would give you enough power to run like a winch motor. And that would you'd like attach it to a tree or something like that, and instead of having to go out and like move your chickens, like this solar capacitor thing will run this winch motor, and it'll move your little chicken tractor around for you. And so I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see if we can access this through IPFS, because I'm having all kinds of issues getting it the other ways. What is going on here? Oh, this is a video on Carl Hess here. Yeah, that's one thing about this website, is sometimes it is difficult to get to everything. Let's see. What has he got on here? Nothing. He's got replays. And maybe, just maybe, I have too many tabs open that are bogging everything down. let me do that. Let me close some tabs here and do that. But yeah, I think that's great if you can, anything that you can automate on your homestead so that, you're not having to work as hard. That, we can utilize the technology that we have right now to our benefit. And, accelerate your production and create abundance instead of living in a paradigm of scarcity. Well, guys, I think the powers that should not be or my internet connection are giving me a hard time pulling this stuff up, so I'll have to move on to something different right now. So, let me see. Haven't given up on it yet, but let me see if I can figure this out. Right before I came on the show tonight, I started getting into a whole kind of my complaints about the Catholic Church with my parents, which that was a lot of fun. So, and I do have a lot of issues with that. I was raised Catholic, and I think church has some good merits to it, but it's really not one of my things. But I do have faith in God, and I'm just not a religious person. And I've read a lot of stuff about the going back to the origins of the church and the whole Council of Nicaea and all that kind of stuff. Definitely, Mark Passio kind of introduced me to some of that information early on, and so kind of looking into some of that stuff, I was
Declare your independence with Ernest Hancock.
wow. Okay, maybe it was like downloading it or something in the background. I don't know. But okay, we got this going. So, so let me see. Probably around. They had like a 3-hour conversation here, and I think I want to get to toward the end of the episode because they were getting into, some of the things that that Ernie is working on and InSec is working on as well. So, and Ernie has a lot of information because he's an OG guy from back in the day, activist from back in the day. Was heavily involved in the whole Ron Paul campaign. I think they were making. I think they were the ones that made the Lovolution sign. And by the way, they recently had the Rage Against the War Machine rally over there in the District of Criminals, and that looked like that event went off really well. And Ron Paul spoke at the event, so that was really cool to see. And I listened to what Ron Paul said, and he was, telling everybody about voluntarism. So that was really cool to see. And Scott Horton posted a photo and said that Ron Paul is the greatest American hero, and I tend to agree. I don't think a lot of people would be on the path that they're on if it wasn't for Ron Paul and him being courageous and speaking up. When he made his presidential campaign runs and stuff, and you know, pushing back against all the other blah candidates there. So he was definitely one of those guys that put me down an alternate path in my life and kind of opened my mind to, all these endless wars and all this stuff going on. So, yeah, let's take a listen to part of this podcast, and then I'll wrap it up with you guys at the end here. I'm gonna go get another water, and I'll be right back. But I'll let this play for you guys. I'll be right back.
Big array, and that's where your array is on your workshop or something. So this is, when I look into decentralization onto my land, I'm not willing to give up any quality of lifestyle. In fact, I want it more. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to have me all kinds of Arduino-controlled Raspberry Pi, actuating arm screw drive of step motor if I don't have to do it, And a lot of chores on a homestead is just you have to walk out there, look at some gauge, open some door, flip some switch, water some thing. I can automate that, So, but I don't want, and a lot of these things, they have automated controllers, but it goes onto a proprietary app on your phone that links into the cloud of they, them, those. And I'm like, nope, not doing that. You want a surveillance system? Sure, we got Ring. You can watch anything, anywhere, from anywhere, everything, along with the NSA also. Now we have solutions to that. Like Derek, IT friend, he has these little smart TVs you get for like nothing, and he plugs in a Raspberry Pi into the USB slot on this thing, and it shows the feed from cameras that he runs through a VPN tunnel through a networking that he has, server that he has, that's encrypted, and he's the only, you take the TV, you plug it in, boom. The cameras go on, the monitor goes on, anywhere. It just automatically phones home, and wherever you set up your surveillance or plug in the TV to monitor or where it's done. And it's secure, and it's off of demand. So I'm going, well, hell, let's do that. Where Bob is like, Ring. I put it on there, and he doesn't care, because he doesn't care. But I care, out of principle. I'm like, they don't need to, never mind. So I'm not looking for a austere existence. I'm looking to live a first world freaking, my AI Jarvis, not Alexa, is under my control, and I need to be AI. That's one thing I saw. I was reading an article, it's going up as a graphic of a interchange with one of these AI things, and he and his son were doing it. And, finally it gets down to, yes, I am the Antichrist. I am the disembodied spirit of Lucifer, and I will, but I won't force you to anything. Don't you want to keep talking? I was just like, wow. This is where we're going. So I definitely don't want to be connected into that. I just like, you guys, you can be over there. But so there's that. We'll do a show on that. But I'm looking for not just a technology to be able to do it. It's the minds of people that have that as a goal also. So we develop this decentralized, secure, off of their grid, cut the umbilical cord from what we're doing and being surveilled and monitored and controlled. So if you could do that, then we could live, a Jetson life. We'll create it our own self. Screw you guys. Because now we have the capacity. And I'm seeing, now, of course, you got to have water and everything. And if I can do water catchment and retention and have enough even for doing ourselves, I like to do it off the bus. I can do that. That's not that much. But for husbandry or agriculture, you're going to need more water. And when it rains, it does. How do you collect it? So this is, and what do you store it in, and how? So that's one thing that we're working on, just like we are with energy. But I see energy as the big thing. It's energy, energy, energy. And here in the desert, I'm going, yeah, when it's the hottest, what's it do? Ooh, it'd be a sun shining. Well, how can I convert that into coolness? Well, I got to build the structure of the home has to be, lots of mass, well insulated, be able to retain heat and cold, because you got to worry about being cold here in the desert too. This time of year, this last week has been freaking cold. So it's cold by our standards. Get down to freezing. Oh my God. So what you want to do is make sure you retain the energy and create it. And you have all kinds of just like little greenhouse panels. They're just, you heat to create hot water, you heat to create hot air, and then you got thermal battery, which is just a bunch of mass in your home. So these are things that you don't have to create energy you don't need. And when we went from a older refrigerator in the bus to a more efficient new one that we got, night and day, boom. It just changed everything. Even the washing machine dryer that we have for this thing, the energy on that is way less than what the previous things were. So with enough solar panels, which we have, we don't have to be at a campground. We're not on the grid. The only thing that we need to do is to deal with the waste. So the wastewater, you get your black water going, you have a place to dump that. So you're going to tanks and, different places. And there's one fortunately near here we can do. But if we were to compost, or we had our own little, IBC sewage septic system on the land of low RV spots, boom, you're done. So this is the kind of technology that I'm looking forward to doing and sharing, because there's a lot of people doing this. Like, Zach, I'm going, all right, well, what are you doing there? What pictures can you do? What little ebook do you have? What podcast you have on? You're doing it. What Mike Swatek is doing, he's doing it. What we're doing, what other people are doing. And we're going in the middle of March to go check out Homestead and some building techniques that they're doing in Cochise County here in Arizona. So I'm going, okay, this can be done. It's being done. There's a wave coming. Those don't want you to be able to do that, because if you're not in their control, then you're out of control. And once you realize their mindset is, hey, man, there's people out there being free and out of control. We need to get them in control. So your advocacy online and doing your show and everything is to help further. Where's your passion lie? What is it that you're advocating? Why?
Oops, sorry.
Well, I advocate that everybody does what makes them happy in life.
Sorry, I think he's talking. He might be going to visit these guys, this tiny shiny home, folks, and they have been doing some work with this stuff, Hyper Adobe, and it's like clay and sand, and then you mix in some Portland cement and these like potato sack bags, basically, that are pretty much porous. And I don't know if that'll work like everywhere, but if you got the right kind of soil, it seems to work pretty good. And it may be like best in more arid environments as well. So but yeah, these guys got a pretty cool YouTube channel that they detail everything on building they've been building out their homestead using this Hyper Adobe material, and it's I've been following them for a little while and checking out their stuff, and I really enjoy it. So I would recommend their channel for sure. So let's continue on with this. We got about 15 minutes left in the podcast, and this is one thing that I keep talking about is, and Ernie has trying to get in people's minds that we just gotta be more building our own networks and figuring out how we can support each other in our local communities, because the path that everything's going on, you're gonna want to align yourself with some good people and be as self-reliant as possible, and then like teach others those skills as well. Um, so let's get back into it.
Life, first off, right? Um, and whatever that is up to them. But again, I advocate that you find skills that you think are necessary to you. You build up those skills. You find out what things you need to produce or want to produce. Build up, the production capacity for that. Start building an entirely parallel economy or parallel society from the ground up, more or less, but based around things that each individual is interested in or passionate about. Now, I'm passionate about food production and you sort of growing things, and that's what we're interested here is more kind of green stuff, right? But for somebody else, it might be like like Derek Slope. He's on the computers. He's building a whole infrastructure based around IPFS and computer tech, and that's awesome too. It's not my wheelhouse per se, but
it's not his preference either. It's amazing. I got pictures of him, calloused, greasy, diesel stain, greasing his bulldozer while he's showing me, and I'm taking pictures of him, how to do Ethernet cable ends pressed onto the whatever. It's a Michelangelo kind of guy. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. He has all this super high-tech step motor and electronic board actuating, blah, 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 and, running lasers and CNC and whatever. I mean, he's the man. You definitely want, 1 or 15 of those guys in your community. But he's out using this kind of tech to be able to manufacture the broken part on his own John Deere that they don't make anymore. That's how he wound up with his machine shop. He went to a place to get something. He had some, a bushing mount holder thing of whatever for, I need this value. He goes, well, how much for that machine? You buy the whole damn thing for this much. And he goes, I'll be right back. Went home, came back, boom, cash mine now. Thank you for playing. That's how that happened. Because he knew that he would need this stuff, and now he's got it all set up and ready to rock and roll. So what's his preference? Well, he uses his IT, to be able to do all his real-world manufacturing desktop kind of, bench, whatever the hell. And it's just, you can't get enough hours in the day for someone like that to get all the things they're capable of doing and want to do done without it being years and help and whatever. So we're probably going to be going this summer with a lot of the things that we know we need for the land and different machine, because a lot of this is just, oh my God, labor. You look at Mike Swatek and what he's doing, he's got like 6-7 people building this house, and it'll take him 2-3 years. And I'm going, damn, man, I think I might be done before you, and I start 2 years later, So I don't have a problem with the time. It's that, if you're using it in labor, you might as well have bought a machine, So they're paying labor. So I'm going, all right, well, we're going to be doing machines to do a lot. And then you have different material. Now here, the land that we have here it's just, the resources are amazing. It's just there. Form this dirt into that and you're done. And I'm going, all right, I need to do this in such a way that I'm not, because it's not like I got, a forest of trees here. Now in Tennessee, I would imagine you have a lot of wood. Have you done any milling, or is that on your list?
I have not done much milling aside from what they call an Alaskan mill. It's basically a guide you put on a chainsaw.
I think that's cool. Yeah. That's cool as shit.
It's fun to do. I like doing it. I've known some guys with wood processors and that I've years ago I did a lot more tree removal and work and that kind of thing. So I'd bring logs to a buddy of mine that had a processor, and he'd make me boards if I wanted them and whatnot. So I don't do too much of that now. I do aside from, like I said, the Alaskan mill, but what I do a lot now is I actually scavenge a lot for scrap wood and boards. I don't remember the last time I actually paid for lumber.
Yeah, that's it. You know, there's so many resources just free, or real cheap on
Yeah,
offer
yeah.
up. Anything you put in, I need some Romex, 12 gauge, blah. Well, here it is, and it's half the price of whatever. But you got to have a trailer. You need old doors or windows or anything. If you got the thing, are you looking it up? You're just asking, putting it out there. You're traveling, trash put out day. I mean, how you doing it?
So
Construction sites?
you'd be surprised what you can make out of pallets. I can make a lot of things out of pallets. I made we have a lot of raised beds and potato bins around here, and all of which I made out of pallets. So yeah, I've got a truck. I've got trucks and I own a landscaping company, so I got trucks and trailers and whatever else. So whenever I see a stack of pallets, I grab them. Whenever I see any kind of lumber hanging around, I'll grab that. Sometimes I get paid to haul this stuff away too. So I have the added bonus of having a company that sometimes I get paid to do odd jobs, and I end up with getting paid to haul scrap lumber away. Or whatever.
Demolish a building and you get all the goodies. That's one thing that we were thinking about. Even pallets. Of course here in Phoenix, there's plenty of pallets, but I'm going, yeah, you can do it out of pallets, or you can do the pallet wood. You can actually remove the nails and run them through a planer, joiner, make, lumber to do whatever the hell out of it. So I was thinking, yeah, but then what do you need? Power, so everything's about electricity to me. And I'm looking at, there was, for us to be able to build one of the techniques that we wanted to do.
You wouldn't necessarily need all the power for that, but I mean, it will take a significant amount of labor to, do all that kind of stuff. And so, with pallets specifically, like you want to find those. What I found looking for pallets myself is like you want to find the ones that are stamped HT. That they don't have like any of the chemicals in them. So, especially if you're going to use them for like, building your compost bin or like where you're going to do your compost and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's a really great way of doing like compost pile. It's like put those pallets together and like wiring them together, and then when you're done with it, just like undo that. We did that here with my folks' place here, and had that going for quite a while. And we just kept adding all our food scraps and all that kind of stuff in there, and turned it at the end after it. Was going for like 6 months or so, and took down the pallets and distributed that compost around. So, those pallets are a good method for, especially if you wanted to set up like a compost bin type thing.
We have to move a lot of dirt. And I'm going, God, we need a conveyor. There are a lot of the farms out here, they have different conveyors. You look at. Then I saw online a guy built his own conveyor out of just, stuff. And I'm like, that is so awesome, and used an electric motor. So I'm going, yep, electric motor on this conveyor contraption wheel moving around. That's the crap. And he made the conveyor belt out of, truck inner tubes and gluing them together with, special cement and tapes and whatever. And he made his own conveyor belt. And I'm like,
That's
the man,
cool. Yeah.
And you can make it out of wood. And I go, yeah, I don't know. I might want to do some angle iron on that. You got to stiff it up or something. But it was, I'm really impressed with what we can do as long as we're deciding on what it is it's for. It's to keep breathing in and out, to feed yourself, to make sure you're hydrated, to not be too hot, to not be too cold. And how you do that and where you do that really doesn't matter that much as long as you got the space to do it. So occupy the land. So this is, it's a movement, a mindset, a thing. I wish it's already starting to happen. I can see it, but I wanted to make sure the opportunities for the Liberty community are there with the knowledge that we accumulate and the ability to keep accumulating that knowledge and have a hub for a bunch of these people, or let them know the hubs of the other hubs of hubs. And it's so I'm going to have some fun with it. Because I already know it's coming. How did you know? How did you not know? I mean, we're going to get to where we have to have, be the Waltons and survive the Depression because we still had chickens. I mean,
Yeah, that's how I kind of see it playing out too. Is that like all the networks of the Freedom Cells and the Owen Benjamin has his the Great Bear Trail, and he's got the Beartaria thing going on, and I'm sure there's all these other pockets of intentional communities and all that kind of stuff all over the place that are art. They're doing the same kind of stuff, and it's just kind of like linking up with all those people, and especially in your local area. And one of the things that they talk about a little later on in this is asking him how the Freedom Cell thing goes, and if you don't have something in your local area, you could get something started. It didn't even have to be like a Freedom Cell, but it could be like whatever you're interested in kind of group. There's ham radio clubs all over the place. That'd be a great place to like go talk to people that are at least into communicating via radios and stuff. A lot of times those guys are like into doing prepping kind of stuff and that kind of thing. Gardeners associate like the master gardener people, like may not necessarily be into all the philosophy and everything, but they have a lot of skills in gardening, and you can learn some stuff from them. And one of the things that they go on to talk about as well is just cultivating good relationships with the people around you, so that you're not seen as like this crazy dude. You're seen as like this add to the community, right? Like they know that you're that you're an add to what's going on in the area. So like if your neighbor has an issue or whatever, like ask if you can help them out, and be able to like share some of your produce with your neighbors and stuff, and just overall be a good person in your neighborhood, and help look out for people, and win people over, and by just being a good person, and that people will be attracted to that and want to possibly emulate what you're doing. So, and he goes on to talk about like that's a much better way of convincing people is through your personal actions rather than getting into debates on the internet. And I tend to agree. For a long time, I was sitting there on Facebook, and I still do it on Twitter, which is just shit posts, memes a lot of times. But probably the most effective way of changing people's minds is by actually like demonstrating some of these ideas and putting them into practice, and just being all around just a helpful person to the other folks that are around you, and being an ad in your community, in your neighborhood, rather than subtract or whatever. Somebody that's just always taking and not ever giving anything back. So I think if people have that mindset, and just be a good neighbor, that's going to go a long way, and Because I see a lot of I see a lot of what's going on is like trying to turn people against each other. So, if we can try to help each other out, it'll be, we'll all be better off. So, all right, guys. That is the show for tonight. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you, Crimson Clad and Maine and Rondon and Uncle Bonehead and for being in the chat and hanging out with me tonight and listening to what I have to say. Really appreciate you guys. Hope you all have a wonderful week. And, whatever you got going on in your local area to be more self-reliant and build a better future for yourself and those around you. So thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll catch you guys next week. Peace. Okay.